All right, we are on air. It is Thursday, September 27th, and we're going to do a little check-in with status of Backdrop. So, general announcements, we do still have PHP Storm licenses for Backdrop Contrib developers. Send an email to info@BackdropCMS if you want one of those. We have another announcement this week, which is kind of exciting, and that's that we've been contacted by the organizers of the Drupal Camp Utah, which will be happening in February of 2016, and they're specifically looking for people to come and talk about Backdrop. So there are some great benefits about this camp in particular. Utah in February is excellent ski territory. So if anyone is an avid skier or snowboarder, that can be kind of a fun vacation to take if you wanted to head to Utah. They also have grants for presenters. So you can get up to $500 to offset your travel costs if you're interested in presenting there. And if you work for a company that sends you, they're happy to list that company as a sponsor on the camp website. So if anyone wants to work any of those angles to try and get to Utah, they would love to have Backdrop people come and talk about Backdrop. So that's on the Backdrop events calendar in February, and if anyone wants to think about plans for 2016, that might be a good place to start. All right, we don't have any updates from the PMC this week, so we will go right into community growth. Nate, do you want to talk a little bit about what's happened since last week?
Yeah. So let's see. Our total contrib authors is 38. No new members since last week. I say every week if you're interested in porting a module to Backdrop, we'd love to have it in the contrib group. That's where we put all of our modules, and right now it is a requirement that you put your module in that group if it's going to be listed on BackdropCMS.org, which we'll talk about later. But we have 142 total projects, including themes, layouts, and modules. One new project since last week, and around 62 projects with official releases that have been synchronized with BackdropCMS.org. So a little slow on the growth in the past couple weeks, but we're hoping that that'll pick up. We still have like a tremendous number of modules, and I think the upcoming release in September is going to be a great boon for us with all the new features and functionality it is going to include. So still looking great overall.
Yay. Do you want to also give us an update on update status in Project Browser?
Yes. Let's see. Okay, yes, so yeah, lots of great stuff happened this week, actually, as far as BackdropCMS.org goes. We did a bunch of work on project usage this week, trying to get that accruing numbers. We'd been collecting raw usage information from all of the sites that have been out there that have installed Backdrop, but they haven't been aggregating correctly. And we set up the cron job to start aggregating those things, or aggregating, like crunching the raw numbers, but I think there's some issues with our aggregation script that actually compiles all of the raw numbers together. And so I've started running that script to see if it will collect numbers over a period of time, because it needs to actually be run regularly in order to actually crunch the numbers properly. But it's been a little bit on the fritz. So the original numbers were too low based on the raw numbers that were coming in, and then the most recent week it said that there were no sites out there, which is totally incorrect. So it's a little bit funny. We're going to need to work out the numbers, work out the statistics on generating those numbers before we publicly make those accessible, but they are there for administrators can see usage statistics on BackdropCMS.org, but they're all wonky. So we're going to need to work that out before we make those publicly accessible. Let's see. Project Browser. Project Browser made some nice progress this week. We set up projects.backdropcms.org, which is going to be a subdomain that, if necessary, we could put a CDN in front of or something like that to make it so that it could handle the requests that come in from all the backdrop sites that are out there. Project Browser makes it so that you can install a module or theme from within the UI of Backdrop without ever leaving your website. So basically, it's a REST kind of service where you query against BackdropCMS.org and say what projects are available, and then it returns back projects that match your search query. So the Project Browser server is now up and running correctly. Doc Wilmot and I have been going back and forth on that a little bit. There's some issue that pagering isn't working. Like if there's more than 10 results, it's showing you more than 10 when really it should be splitting them up into pages. So we have a little bit of implementation that we're working out, but it's coming along. It's kind of neat that it all actually works to the point that you can browse modules from your site and install them. So we're just having some issues that deal with scalability. If we make this widespread or part of core, we need to get worked out some server-side issues still. But some progress, good stuff. Let's see, Drush for Backdrop. Jen, back to you.
Sure. So I think I only did a little bit of work on that since last week. I think I know what we need to do to make it work, but I haven't actually gotten working, so maybe I'll spend some more time on that today. I would really like to get, at very least, like the drush DL command working, which can be kind of tricky because those are going to have to be pulling stuff from GitHub. But we'll see. That's my goal for today. Okay, moving on. Big news on the flagship website, which is the next item on our agenda here. We finally launched the modules, themes, and layouts pages. So we got designs from Darius. We got them implemented by Wes. They sat out there for about a week, letting us kind of look at them and play with them and see if they were working the way we wanted to. And I think we're pretty close. There's obviously a bunch of features that are missing that we're going to add as we get data, like things like charts Nate was talking about. Our analytics isn't quite counting correctly yet, but as soon as we get that sorted out, we'll be able to start showing numbers of downloads and stuff like that. There's also a couple of development tasks where we had pictures of things in the designs that didn't actually exist in the code, so we have to do a little work on project module, either with the views integration or just adding the data that we need directly to the node when you're looking at it. But it's good enough. It's an MVP, so we launched it. We got it up. I think people will start to be able to find modules via the Backdrop website now instead of through GitHub, which is really good. And I'm hoping that this will also encourage people who have ported modules and left them in GitHub repositories to make official releases so that they will show up now on the public website. So I think we're looking pretty good in terms of getting that up. I'm super excited that we got all of that done. And we'll just keep working on the last few sets of things. Wes and I were talking earlier today in the design call about setting up a issue queue for the BackdropCMS.org site of all of the tasks that are yet to be done on these pages. So things like, you know, we're missing an issue checker, or we're missing a download counter, or whatever it is. We should get those in tickets so that we can get the development done, or whatever. So Nate was asking if we should maybe remove like themes and layouts until we have themes and layouts, but I think that seeing them there will encourage people who have themes and layouts to make releases of them. So I don't know. How do people feel about that? Do you think we should take down the pages or at least remove them from primary navigation until we actually have more themes and layouts, or do you think we should leave it?
Well, I think themes are fine. There's like 5 or 6 themes, but layouts, there's only one thing on there. Yeah, it just seems...
I think it's also really important that people in Backdrop understand that layouts are a thing. And even if we only have one there, they need to know what it is.
Yeah. So. Okay. Yeah, we might also... These
I did
primary...
Shad yesterday and ask him if he would publish Radix too. Yeah, because that'll make it look, it'll look, we've got the Radix theme and the Radix layouts. Having stuff like that fit together, I think, will help people's understanding of how Backdrop is different from Drupal.
Yeah, we might want to go back and look at our how our top-level navigation functions. It's instead of making this be like modules, themes, and layouts, having this be top-level things, maybe we can put them into a drawer like it is for the handbook, maybe.
We could, but that means we'd need to figure out what to call things that you drop in.
Right.
Is much harder than just rearranging the menu.
Yeah, giving something a name.
Plugins, add-ons. We can have that conversation, but it'll be fun.
Yeah, maybe it should be like, extend or something like that. That is, I don't know, because it's a little bit weird. Like if I were just browsing this website and I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the home page. I go to the home page. I'm going to go to the handbook, and the handbook pops out. It's like, okay, this is the stuff in the handbook. But then I get down to modules, and it just like, as somebody that's just, I don't know, I guess it's important for existing users, but as somebody that's just figuring out what Backdrop is, it can be a little bit daunting that you just kind of get popped into this listing thing. It's a little bit odd as far as top level navigation goes.
Yeah,
like
I guess another drawer is good, and lumping them all together in the drawer would be good. And then later on, if we have translations and distributions and all that, they can all go in that same bucket.
Right. Yeah. Okay. It's just maybe I'm just having trouble adjusting to the shift in the purpose of BackdropCMS.org. I mean, we knew it was coming, but the top level nav, including functional things like that, this is throwing me off. Anyway, sorry. We'll talk about it.
Offline.
We'll talk about it online. Yeah.
Okay.
Projects. There you go. That's a good idea. Sorry.
I don't know. Project sounds like that word has other meaning to other people. I don't know. We'll figure it out somehow. They are projects. Okay, other things we're working on. Having these pages up, obviously, is great. We need to work on them a little bit more. In the future, we want to add a showcase. We want to add service provider listings. We want to add job listings. We want to add event calendar. And we are also open to turning this into more of a community website where people can log in. They can claim things like their modules, themes, and layouts. They'll be able to access some more of the tools and features we put up there, but we don't have any immediate plans to do any of those today. So coming soon, but maybe not urgently. All right. So let's talk about Backdrop, the project. So we had a release last week, which was great. It included a bunch of little teeny tiny bug fixes and some security issues that we coordinated with Drupal. We now have the next minor release, which is 1.1.4, is not currently scheduled. There are a couple of little tiny things that have been assigned to that milestone, but that was just stuff I was doing the other night, and it was late, and I was mad, and so I said this should be done soon, but I'm not sure they're actually priorities. We will take a look at that, and when we have a bunch of things that seem like they're urgent, we'll issue a new release. Nothing currently on the list for that right now. Nothing urgent. 1.2 is our next minor release of that. 1.1.4 is a bug fix release. I'm just fixing the notes here. 1.2 is our minor release, and that's scheduled for September 15th, which is right around the corner, 3 weeks away. Nate, do you want to give us an update on where things are looking for 1.2? No? You're muted.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. I had a lot of tabs open, and I lost the Hangout tab, so okay. Okay, so 1.2. Lots of exciting things in the past week. So the rich text editor meta issue is 1087, and 1087 includes a chunk of things that we want to expand in our rich text editor integration. And a lot of great stuff has come up in the past week. Graham apparently actually is running a production site off the dev version of Backdrop, and so that's turning up all kinds of great stuff. Because he was saying he was walking his client through adding an image, and then this happened, and I'm like, this is fantastic because we're getting all of this great end user feedback from our production site, which is maybe not recommended, but is awesome for our purposes of testing out how everything works. So let's see. So in the past week, we added the ability to upload images into the editor, which is really exciting. So now, besides just inserting a URL, you can also upload and attach files to content directly from the rich text editor, which is really exciting. There's a bunch of follow-ups besides that one around improving the UI, around configuring a text editor and text format, reworking how filter tips work, because with a rich text editor, filter tips kind of become totally obsolete. Like providing users HTML, like how to type HTML help, just seems kind of ridiculously dated at this point. And there's some other issues and bugs.
Especially if they do type HTML, they aren't going to get anything. They'll get the actual HTML out because all those characters will be encoded.
Yes, exactly. So, like, yeah, it's really silly. So we're hoping to clean up some of that stuff because it's totally obsolete at this point. But right now, it's the same situation as 777, where you have the filter tips, even though filter tips don't really do you any good anymore, and the editors at the same time. So we're hoping to clean that up a little bit. Let's see. Email field. We're hoping to add a simple email field. Hello, Mr. Cat made a pull request a couple of weeks ago. I picked it up, let's see, day before yesterday to review it for commit. It looks really good. It's really simple. I didn't quite realize how simple the email field module actually was. After trimming down the functionality to the basics, the entire module is like 300 lines of code. So I'm feeling really good about that. I would like to make sure that we get an update hook put in there so that people are notified that there's a core version of email module if you're running an existing version of email module, kind of similar to what we did for CK Editor, just to notify people that they can disable the old email module if they so choose and replace it with the new one that's in core. Let's see, link module. Link module also hoping to add to core for 1.2. This is pretty much done at this point. The issue is issue number 240. I took Jeff's Serendipity's pull request and worked on that a little bit. And I cleaned up all the code style and got all the tests passing. And I've gone over that one 3 or 4 times now, and I think that it's ready. It would be great to have some confirmation of that if anybody else gets a chance to do a review. Jeff in particular, it'd be handy since you'd already done a bunch of work on Link to try that out and see if there's any remaining issues. Okay, cool. He's already reviewed it. Okay, excellent. Well, I think that's pretty much ready to go. We'll probably see that in the next week, which would be exciting. And then email, I think we'll probably see email in the very near future as well. So that's great. I mean, we're almost, I mean, right now we're at 1 out of 4 things that we want to have done, but I don't know, we're really close to having the 2 and number 3 done as well, between rich text editing, email, and link fields. Those look like that's all going to happen. Date field is the one that is the biggest remaining thing, and is the one that I've looked at personally the least. So we really need some help over in the date issue, which is issue 478. And maybe it doesn't actually need a whole lot of work. Maybe it does. I'm not really sure. But what we need most there is reviews of the code that has been posted. Graham's said that he's taking a break from it because he's done this as much as he knows to do, and that he needs additional feedback before he would do anything else. So, but I'd like to see, hopefully before next week, I will have had a chance to look at that, and I can give us a better update on the status of date. How do we review that? So if you look at issue 478, you can find the pull request that Graham made, and you do a checkout, just do a git checkout of his branch of that. So you add his repository as a remote, and then you pull down his copy of that branch, and then you can test out any pull requests that way. Okay, you have his remote. So you just say, but he has no branch. I'm taking a look here real quick. Oh, yeah, it looks like he's just using his 1.x branch for that. So make your own branch that is like a, call it date field or whatever, and then git pull his remote name 1.x, and that will pull his 1.x into your branch with a different name. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. And there's some other issues that we'd like to see in 1.2 besides those kind of major ones, and there's a list of them if you go to the issue queue and select the milestone for 1.2. There's some other issues in there that we're trying to get in as well that are peripheral, but still would be great if we could include them. Okay. Let's see. Is there anything else? 1.3. It's time to start thinking about 1.3, even though 1.2 hasn't made it out yet. So 1.2 is going to be out September 15th, so just a couple short weeks away. And then 1.3 is going to be January 15th, 2016. The plan for 1.3 at this point is mostly to do a cleanup release, just focus on improving our UIs and expanding out the functionality of the modules that we already have added to core. In particular, improving the rich text editing and improving layouts are two big things that we'll probably do a lot of in 1.3. Let's see, the agenda here also says that we're planning on building out more administration views, simplifying the menu UI, and then there's the just general list of issues for 1.3 as well.
So I went through the meta issue of modules that were included in Drupal 8 core and the list of things that we wanted to put in Backdrop, and two of those, the menu UI and the administration views, were two that they were like one of the two of the last ones that were in Drupal 8 that we didn't have equivalents for in Backdrop. So I just figured getting those on there should be pretty easy. We already have issues that are kind of half done on both of those. So I think just wrapping them up and getting them in gives us some leverage when you say these are all the modules that went into Drupal 8 and these are all the modules that went into Backdrop. If those are comparable, I think that looks good. And it doesn't seem like they're a lot of work. So I think getting them into that release makes sense because we can do that along with all of the cleanup and improvement stuff that we want to do anyway. And they're both related to user experience. So it seems like a good match.
Okay, yeah, there's only one listing in there that we haven't already converted. Okay.
I think it was comments or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're pretty close. So yeah, I think if we have any trouble with date in the 1.2 release, pushing that to 1.3 would be really reasonable, and that would then become our top priority for 1.3. But I'm also open to putting in other field modules. Drupal 8 has a ton of field modules in there, things like phone, which I'm not entirely sure apply to the 80%. But we can reevaluate that too, and if there are modules that are used for the 80% in Backdrop that weren't in Drupal. That might also be a good time to start looking at our actual usage statistics and see what people are doing with Backdrop and see if our priorities should become different from Drupal's. So that's a good place to kind of do an evaluation. We also have a bunch of other user experience issues on GitHub. I was on there the last few days creating a handful of my own, and I noticed there are a bunch of other ones on there, which is fantastic. A whole bunch of really great ideas about how to solve some of the problems that we're facing and have been facing in Drupal for a long time. So I'm super excited to see all of the work that's going on in that. And there's also an issue tag for developer experience issues too. If we want Backdrop to be widely adopted, we need to improve the developer experience even over that of Drupal. And I know that Wes and I also have a list going based on kind of theme developer experience as well to see what are the things that are weird about Backdrop. And I think he found a bunch of things that might be bugs that we just need to fix. And if we can get them fixed, then that experience is going to be much better. But there's also just a bunch of weirdness that we've got in Backdrop that's left over from Drupal's theme system that we should maybe evaluate and figure out. You know, I've done a lot of work thinking about Drupal's theme system and how to make it better, but let's see how those things make sense in a Backdrop world, and it might be a completely different solution. So kind of taking a step back and looking at what does it feel like to build themes for Backdrop, and what are the biggest sticky points or the biggest things that are confusing, and trying to find ways to make those better. If anyone else has kind of been taking notes about what it's like to make modules or layouts for Backdrop and run into the same kind of list of these 4 things are weird, I would love to see those either as issues in the issue queue or as a Google document or a blog post, just saying what you like and don't like about it and where the confusing parts are, because that's stuff that we need to clean up for first-time developers as well as developers that are coming over from Drupal. So definitely interested in getting feedback on that. So we'll continue working on both user experience, developer experience, and any other issues that come up in the issue queue for Backdrop. As things come up, we will address them. Security issues will get fixed quickly. User experience issues will get fixed quickly. Developer experience issues will get fixed as we can without breaking APIs. So I think we've kind of got ourselves in a pretty good position now too with the imminent release of Drupal 8. People will start looking at Backdrop as a alternative here in the near future. So I think having a good solid product ready is going to be really important for us, and thank you everybody for all of the work that you've been doing to help us get there too. So it's pretty exciting. Okay, so today, after this meeting, we're going to have a little sprint in IRC, and we usually do this every Thursday afternoon. So if you can get time to contribute to the Backdrop project, Thursdays are a good day to do it. We meet in IRC. Our IRC channel is #Backdrop. We're also all over the GitHub issue queue if IRC isn't your thing. We have a Reddit as well. And we are looking into other places where the community can interact. So we're going to try and figure out how to get single sign-on on our website, and then we're open to figuring out like how we can use that for collaboration and communication as well. So we'll be looking into that here in the next few months. Upcoming events. We have slides for anyone that's doing a presentation on Backdrop in the Backdrop Ops GitHub group. There's a project called Slides. Les has done a bunch of work on making a Reveal.js kit there, so if anyone wants to pull slides from existing presentations or just use Reveal.js with the Backdrop theme, that's all there. Anyone who does a presentation using that kit, if you add your own slides, we'd love to have them back. You can just create a pull request there, and we'll try and make that a kind of a repository for information for anyone who either wants to watch slides on Backdrop or give talks of their own, which I think will be a good resource for the community. In the near future, we also have DrupalCamp LA, which, wait, is that, it's this weekend? Last weekend. It's this weekend. It's tomorrow. So this weekend, if you are in Los Angeles, you can go to DrupalCamp LA. They're a Backdrop-friendly event, so people there will be chatting about Backdrop, which is a good thing to do. Friendly chit chat, banter, all of that. I don't know if anyone's actually presenting on Backdrop there, but that would be interesting to hear about if someone does. And then in 2 weeks we have Nerd Summit, which is the Northeastern something or other. I don't remember which city it's in, but we will figure it out. Amherst, there we go. Thank you. Like, I know I just bought a plane ticket, but I can't remember where we're going. So that's coming up. That I think is super exciting because that's the I think second event that we've attended that is not a specific Drupal event, and this is a big chunk of our target audience. It is Drupal and WordPress, and with Backdrop trying to sit right in the middle, it'll be super interesting to talk to WordPress people about Backdrop and see what they think. It'll also be good to talk to our Drupal folks and see what they think. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a CMS panel on Saturday where I think a bunch of people are going to ask a bunch of different questions to, how do you solve this problem in different ways on different platforms, which I'm really excited to be participating in. So that'll be a lot of fun. Pacific Northwest Drupal Summit is also coming up. That is early in October, followed by BadCamp, which is in late October. And BadCamp, of course, has its Backdrop Summit. BadCamp is the same weekend as DrupalCamp Ohio, which is also a Backdrop-friendly event. So if you can't get to the West Coast and want to go to the Midwest, you could definitely do that same weekend. So lots of fun stuff coming up. We also have our first Drupal-friendly event of 2016, which is the DrupalCamp Utah, Backdrop-friendly Drupal event. DrupalCamp Utah, which is in the end of February. So I think we've got a lot of good people talking about Backdrop of different places, which is super exciting. If anyone watching this meeting knows about another Drupal event where you're going to be talking about Backdrop, let us know and we can throw it onto our calendar. We will eventually get a listing of events up on our website where people can consult that. But right now there's an iCal feed that is available on the contribute page on BackdropCMS.org and on our Reddit page. So hopefully you guys can find that easily enough. I think that's it as far as our agenda goes this week. Let's see, were there any questions that popped up that we should address? Contrib priority. So that's a good question from Jeff too about do we have a list of the top priority modules that need to be ported? I don't know that there's a list. I would imagine that what is a priority for, I don't know. I mean, maybe we should find a way to keep track of that, but I would imagine that might be different for each person or each site or each company depending on the ways that they do things. It would be good to kind of count like who wants what. I know we've been doing a pretty good job about if you have a module and you want to see ported to Backdrop, you post in the issue queue and say, hey, is anyone interested in working on porting this module to Backdrop or maintaining it over there or whatever. I think having a count there, right, where if someone else were to come and say, oh, I really want this too, that would help us figure out priority in terms of porting that module. But it might also be good to have our own place that isn't Drupal.org to start keeping track of that stuff as well. I don't know how to do that. I'm open to ideas if we want to start maybe an issue on GitHub with, these are modules we want to see ported. I don't know how we can count there. I mean, we could use comments the same way you could on Drupal.org, but so yeah, I don't know. I would say put your thinking hats on. Maybe we can start with an issue on GitHub right now as a put it in the contrib repository or something and see if we can start keeping track there. But it would be good to have another way to tell. I mean, keeping track of issues that are modules that are most downloaded for Drupal. I mean, that our top modules list is what we've been working from lately to see if we have ports from those. But yeah, I don't have any other ideas. Andy also asked a question about libraries handling in Backdrop. So I don't know, Nate, maybe you can talk better to this than I can, but I think our general consensus is the reason that we had to have a libraries module for Drupal is because you couldn't include libraries with your Drupal modules. So you needed some way to manage that. In Backdrop, you can. So, for example, the CK editor module that's in Cork contains CK editor module, and we don't need a module to manage that library for us. So we're just trying to figure out what is the utility that libraries provides that we need in Backdrop. And my understanding was it was something that would just keep track of the versions of the libraries that are needed. Because updating to a different version of CK Editor is going to break the CK Editor module in Core. You probably don't want to do that. But I don't know. I mean, maybe having some way to, if you had a different module that also included CK Editor, making sure that you didn't get two copies of it. CK Editor is a bad example for this, but something like slideshows, right? You might have a view slideshow module and a field slideshow module, and they use the same library, but you don't want to download that library twice. So, yeah, I don't know. We need to examine that problem space more, which I think we can do once we have actual contrib modules that use libraries. It's a little hard to guess what we need to do before that. The problem you're probably running into, Indy, is that when you're porting modules, they require libraries. I would just say what we need to do when we're porting modules is remove that dependency and just add the library. And then we'll start figuring out how to manage those long term once we run into that problem. But Nate, you have some experience with this. Do you want to talk a little bit more to...
Yeah, there's a whole new discussion that is happening in this space right now that's not about JavaScript libraries, it's about PHP libraries. And let's see, Matt opened up an issue from Lullabot, actually. Opened up an issue about how we should include PHP libraries and modules, which got into a little bit of a composer discussion. And there's an issue 1123 here. I'll link to it in the Hangout. Yeah, there we go. This one, if you guys haven't seen that. So there's a discussion that he brought up there about embedding PHP libraries into modules and how that probably wouldn't, PHP libraries are more likely to be used by a group of modules in some cases, depending on what that PHP library is, especially if it's something like some Symfony component or something like that that is a general purpose thing. And right now, I don't really have a lot of extra input on it because I haven't finished reading through everything that's going on there. There's a discussion that just started on the Drupal queue 2 weeks ago about using Packagist instead of, or in place of, or in addition to Drupal.org for module management and how that interacts with modules using Composer and using Composer to install modules. So there's all kinds of crazy things all around that discussion. But this thread is like really, really long and really verbose, so I haven't gotten through it yet.
I also think we need to keep in mind that things that are going on in the Drupal world might not be relevant to us too. I mean, do 80% of WordPress users use Composer? I feel like that is maybe a non-issue for us, and we should not be. These tools are good, and if we can allow people to use them, we should, but we should not require that because it's going to severely increase the barrier to entry for installing libraries if we have to do that for something like Composer or Packagist. So I think there's a simple solution which we need to consider first, and then there's the best solution that we also need to consider. But I think for now the simple solution is just put your library in your thing and don't depend on it. And if we get to a point where we have a conflict, we can solve that problem.
Yep. So, but yeah, there's a lot of really interesting discussion going on, and we definitely can benefit from reading over all of those thoughts because Drupal is so similar to Backdrop that they're facing the same problem that we are, and there's a lot of great discussion going on. So whatever happens over there, we can take a look at their final solution, or perhaps we can just take a look at the discussion, because there's lots of different alternatives, and maybe we can actually use one of the alternatives, or we can use the final solution, whatever actually comes to pass. But
yeah, just their target
it's
audience is not our target audience, and we need to keep that in mind. So it's good to know. We should read everything, but any other questions? Did we miss anything earlier?
I think that's it. Let's call it a Thursday. Well, except they're not calling it Thursday because we're going to go code.
All right, well then we will end this meeting. Definitely, if anyone has any ideas about the library stuff, throw it in the issue queue, read what's going on in Drupal.org. Let's keep that conversation going because it's super interesting. But yeah, we will see you all in the GitHub queue or next week. Thanks everyone for joining, and keep up the good work. We're really excited to see all of the momentum and progress that's been happening in Backdrop land. So good job, everybody. Have a good Thursday.
All right, bye guys.